Carl Jung, The Power of Embracing Your Dark Side. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. In today's journey on spiritual wisdom, we explore the power of embracing your dark side. Jung reminds us that true growth doesn't come from denying what hides in the shadows, but from facing it with courage and compassion. When we acknowledge our flaws, wounds, and hidden desires, we step into a deeper level of self-awareness that leads to real transformation. So let me ask you, are you ready to turn your darkness into light? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective might inspire someone else on their path of awakening. 1. The shadow and persona. Jung warned that when we live only in the light and hide the dark, we fall into illusion. Society rewards the mask we wear, the persona, that polished image we present to meet expectations. But behind that mask, the soul suffers. The persona is useful. It helps us move through the world, but when we mistake it for our true self, it leaves us hollow. We act kind, agreeable, perfect, yet inside resentment, fear, and sadness grow. This is why Jung called us to confront the shadow, the part of us that holds everything we deny or suppress: anger, jealousy, selfishness, but also wild creativity, passion, and vitality. Spirituality without shadow work becomes shallow, a show of light that lacks depth, while spiritual awakening demands honesty with our own contradictions. The shadow is not an enemy, but a hidden reservoir of strength and authenticity. By ignoring it, we project it onto others, blaming them for what lives in us. By facing it, we reclaim what was lost. Jung compared the shadow and persona to two sides of a coin, one polished for the world, the other hidden but inseparable. Denying the back does not erase it. It blinds us to wholeness. Only when we integrate both sides do we move beyond the prison of appearances and step into authenticity. This is not about glorifying darkness, but about becoming whole. For the union of light and shadow is what gives depth to the human spirit. The path of true spiritual awakening is not an escape into perfection, but a descent into our own depths, where light and dark meet and transform us into something real. 2. Authenticity and self-realization. True self-realization is not about running from your flaws, but about facing them with honesty and courage. Because as Carl Jung said, there is no light without shadow. To repress your darkness is to let it control you in hidden ways, but to confront it is to begin the process of healing and integration. When you acknowledge anger, fear, jealousy, or pain without shame, you free yourself from the exhausting burden of wearing a mask and pretending to be only light and positivity. In that moment, authenticity is born, and with it comes relief, clarity, and psychic wholeness. Every shadow carries a hidden lesson. Anger teaches the importance of boundaries. Sadness deepens compassion. Envy reveals desires waiting to be pursued. By recognizing these truths, what once felt like weaknesses become guides for growth. Spiritual development is not perfection, but wholeness, a willingness to embrace contradictions and find balance between what is broken and what is beautiful within you. Repressing the shadow only suffocates the soul, but embracing it gives strength, authenticity, and freedom. This is where spirituality becomes real, not an escape from life's difficulties, but a deeper rooting within them. By holding both light and shadow, you live from your true center, rather than from performance or pretense. Each time you confront your darkness, you reclaim a piece of your soul and grow closer to wholeness. True spiritual awakening is not found in denying your humanity, but in fully accepting it, for it is only by embracing the shadow that the light finds its meaning. Have you ever embraced your shadow to discover your true self? If so, share your journey in the comments below to inspire others. If not, simply write, "I will embrace my truth," so we can walk this path of authenticity and self-realization together. 3. Nature of the shadow. The shadow, as Carl Jung explained, is not an evil force, but the unknown, unconscious side of your personality, the part you deny or suppress. Ignored, it becomes hostile, but when acknowledged, it reveals hidden gifts. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Within the shadow lies the gold of spiritual wisdom, the untapped potential that can transform your life. Inside, the aggressive person often lies tenderness, and within the shy or timid rests the seed of confidence. By repressing these qualities, you live half a life, but by integrating them, you discover your true wholeness. Society teaches us to present only the bright, acceptable parts of ourselves, while hiding the envy, fear, and anger. Yet Jung knew that suppressing these traits gives them greater power, while embracing them with awareness allows them to become strength, intelligence, and authenticity. Consider the flaws you dislike: procrastination, envy, fear. Each is not simply a weakness, but a doorway. Procrastination may point to the need for reflection. Envy may highlight hidden ambitions, and fear may signal the threshold of growth. By working with your shadow, poison turns to medicine, weakness becomes power, and shame transforms into truth. As Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. This integration frees you from the burden of perfection and reveals who you really are. The shadow is your hidden gold, the source of authenticity and compassion. Spiritual awakening comes not from escaping darkness, but from holding both light and shadow together. When you accept yourself completely, you embody intelligence, strength, and spiritual wisdom. And in that wholeness, you find the freedom and power you were always seeking. 4. Dangers of repression and projection. Repressing the shadow never makes it disappear. It only forces it underground, where it grows stronger and returns through projection. When you bury your flaws, you unconsciously cast them onto others, blaming them for what you refuse to face within yourself. Criticizing arrogance while denying your own pride, condemning dishonesty while concealing your own manipulations are signs of projection that corrode relationships, foster resentment, and block genuine intimacy. Jung warned that repression does not render the shadow harmless. It makes it dangerous because what is denied becomes uncontrollable, leaking out as sudden anger, irrational hatred, or constant conflict. On a personal level, repression drains energy and breeds bitterness, like holding a beach ball underwater until it bursts out destructively. On a collective scale, when societies project their disowned darkness, they ignite wars, intolerance, and social chaos. History shows how entire nations, blinded by denial, scapegoated others, and unleashed devastating violence. The illusion of purity, of being only light and never darkness, fractures the human spirit and creates an artificial image that feeds judgment and division. Spirituality calls for a different path, one of integration, not denial. True spiritual awakening begins when you dare to face what you most wish to hide, saying, "This too is me, and I will own it." To repress is to remain divided, but to integrate is to reclaim wholeness. Every trigger you feel toward another is a mirror reflecting what you have not yet acknowledged in yourself. Instead of blaming, you can ask, "What does this reveal about me?" This question transforms resentment into insight and conflict into growth. The ego clings to the illusion that I am good, others are bad. But wisdom shows that light and shadow run through every heart. As Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. By meeting your shadow honestly, you prevent it from ruling you through projection and discover that it is not an enemy, but a teacher, offering lessons in humility, empathy, and authentic power. When individuals take responsibility for their shadows, society moves away from cycles of hatred and closer to compassion and balance. Repression and projection rob you of authenticity, but integration restores it, allowing you to live from a place of wholeness rather than fear. The shadow, once faced, becomes a source of strength, a guide toward deeper understanding, and a doorway to true spiritual awakening, where both light and darkness coexist in harmony. 5. Shadow work and transformation. Shadow work is the sacred art of embracing the parts of yourself that you have hidden, denied, or suppressed. And through this embrace, you unlock a deeper level of spirituality and spiritual development. Carl Jung taught that the shadow is not simply darkness, but a hidden reservoir of energy, creativity, and wisdom waiting to be reclaimed. Through self-awareness, you begin to notice how unacknowledged impulses appear in your reactions, projections, and dreams. And with honesty, you stop treating the shadow as an enemy, and instead recognize it as a guide. Jung's reminder that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, reveals the truth that real growth happens not by ignoring pain, but by transforming it. Dream analysis allows the unconscious to speak through symbols and images, offering direct insight into conflicts and desires, while emotional observation trains you to sit with difficult feelings rather than escape them, turning them into teachers of depth and clarity. Even suffering and depression hold meaning. For as Jung described, a creative depression is not the end, but the beginning of transformation. These dark nights of the soul strip away illusions and attachments, preparing you for renewal. Like the stillness of winter that makes way for spring. What feels heavy and unbearable often carries the seed of rebirth, and by walking through it consciously, you emerge with greater vitality and wisdom. To deny your shadow is to live in fragments, but to accept it is to become whole, drawing strength from both your light and your dark. Integration does not mean perfection. It means authenticity, and this authenticity is the true foundation of spiritual development. By reclaiming lost energy and embracing all of who you are, you awaken to a life of depth, vitality, and wholeness, where your darkness no longer imprisons you, but becomes the very source of your transformation. Leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell so you never miss insights on shadow work and transformation. Type in the comments, "I embrace my shadow and transform my life," 6. Wholeness as life's purpose. Wholeness is not about choosing light and rejecting darkness, but about allowing both to coexist within you. When you deny your darkness, you deny half of your nature, and this denial creates an inner split that weakens your intelligence, blocks your spiritual wisdom, and leaves you repeating unconscious patterns. Carl Jung reminds us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And this truth becomes a call to face the shadow rather than pretend it does not exist. By bringing awareness to the parts of yourself you usually suppress: anger, fear, envy, pain, you transform them into guides that reveal what you need, what you value, and what you must protect. The shadow is not your enemy, but your hidden teacher. Think of it as a locked room inside you, filled with neglected gifts, unresolved wounds, and emotions that were never given space to breathe. The moment you unlock that door with curiosity instead of shame, you begin to reclaim energy that was trapped in denial. Every step of shadow work is an act of integration. You name what you reject, observe its patterns, listen to its message, and then translate that message into conscious action. Anger becomes clarity about your boundaries. Envy becomes a mirror of your own unclaimed desires. Fear becomes a signal of what matters most to your soul. Jung wisely said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." To live this is to stop performing positivity and instead practice honesty. It is to stop chasing perfection and start practicing wholeness. In daily life, this looks like apologizing without collapsing, setting boundaries without hostility, and allowing yourself to celebrate others without losing your own light. Each small act of honesty integrates shadow into strength and turns unconscious reactions into conscious responses. Wholeness is not self-indulgence. It is service to the collective. An integrated person projects less pain, destabilizes fewer relationships, and contributes more creativity and presence to the world. Your wholeness radiates in the way you listen, the way you move, and the way you create space for others to grow. By embracing the shadow, you do not lose your light, you ignite it. You become less reactive, more grounded, less fractured, more real. This is the union of opposites that Jung described as the sacred marriage of light and dark within the self. It is a lifelong practice of breathing, naming, tracing, translating, and sharing, a rhythm that transforms inner conflict into harmony. The shadow ceases to be a burden and becomes fuel for awakening. And in that union, you not only change your life, you help shift the collective toward greater balance, depth, and authenticity. This is the quiet power of embracing your dark side, the path to wholeness, wisdom, and true freedom. As we close, remember that embracing your dark side is not about surrendering to it, but about reclaiming your wholeness and stepping into true self-awareness. The more you learn to integrate those hidden parts of yourself, the more authentic, strong, and spiritually awake you become. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos, filled with insights to guide your journey of growth and transformation.